So what happens if you simply ignore the IRS? Maybe you owe them money, or maybe you have years of unfiled returns. Maybe those IRS letters are just piling up on your kitchen counter and you're hoping the problem just goes away. Well, here's the truth. Ignoring the IRS usually doesn't make the problem disappear. And in many cases, it actually makes it more expensive, creates more stress for you, and in the long run, a whole lot more difficult to deal with. Hi, I'm Bob Jablonski. I'm an enrolled agent and certified tax resolution specialist. I help taxpayers dealing with IRS problems, including large tax debts, unfiled returns, liens, levies, and other types of collection cases. And one of the more common things that I hear from new clients is, I should have dealt with this earlier. If you're someone thinking you need to deal with your IRS problem right now and get back on track, click the link in the pinned comment or in the description to this video and let's talk. So here's the reality when you have an IRS problem. They don't start dramatically. You don't wake up one day and find your bank account empty or your paycheck garnished. They're usually going to start with letters or notices. For example, if you owe the IRS money, there's a sequence of letters or notices that are actually going to go out, and they're commonly the same ones. They start with a CP-14 where the IRS notifies that you owe the tax and that they want payment from you. And then not always, but typically you start seeing a sequence, a CP-501 and a CP-503 and a CP-504, which are all considered kind of reminder notices, but they're going from very friendly to more aggressive. And then finally, you'll get your final notice of intent to levy, and that's when things really can start to get bad. So it starts out with some of these letters and things feel really manageable. You're going to be able to take care of this. And especially because some of these are very friendly, people think it's really not that urgent. What they don't realize is this is a process. It's becoming urgent over time. And if the problem continues, things will escalate into those more aggressive actions. So first, when you owe the IRS, there are penalties and interest are accruing. They're growing. And this is one reason why relatively small balances sometimes turn into very large balances over time, especially if several years go by. You'd be surprised once again how many times people come to me and they say, Bob, I don't know. I filed these returns. I didn't know anywhere near this. I owed maybe 25,000. Now it says I owe 40,000. What's going on here? Typically it's penalties and interest. And maybe you don't owe the IRS yet, but you haven't filed returns. What you may find out is if you ignore them long enough, the IRS may eventually prepare something for you, a return for you, and it's called a substitute for return or SFR that I've talked about more in other videos. And what this means is that the IRS is going to file a tax return for you based on income reported to them. What's the problem? Well, they usually don't include things that are to your benefit. For example, let's say you're single and you have several dependents and you are considered head of household, which is a more favorable filing status than single. For this return, the IRS is going to consider you single. And those dependents, the IRS doesn't know about them. So you're not going to get anything related to them, including any tax credits that are available or any other kinds of deductions that are or credits that are outside the norm. The IRS neither knows about them nor are they going to claim them for you. Let's say you're a business owner and the IRS realizes through a 1099 of the income of your business, but they don't know anything about the expenses. Well, you're going to have a tax return where your income is going to be greatly overstated. You're going to have all your business income, but none of your expenses. So what's the result of all of this? The amount that they believe you owe at that time, the amount that's been assessed, so technically you do owe it, is often much higher than it really should be. And remember we talked about penalties and interest earlier? Well, now they're accruing on that larger amount and not the amount that you would actually owe if you filed correctly. So earlier we talked about the CP-14, the 501, the 503, the 504. And at a certain point in time, they are going to give you a final notice of intent to levy. And if you don't deal with that, then your bank account may be emptied out, or your wage garnishment, or spouses, if they're also responsible, they may find their paycheck is severely diminished and it's much smaller than they expect. Along the way, the IRS may file a federal tax lien against you. Also, if you owe enough, if it's a serious enough issue, the IRS may assign a revenue officer to your case. In those cases, that revenue officer, unlike dealing with automated collections where you're mainly dealing with a computer or calling into an 800 number, they're going to be contacting you and they're going to be much more aggressive. They need to get that case solved one way or another. They need to find a resolution with you or without you. So if you do help them, they're going to try to find a resolution that is acceptable to the IRS and that you agree with. Or if you don't help them, that's where they're just going to start issuing levies and liens and all of those things to aggressively collect from you. So remember, these are things you don't want to happen. But if you wait long enough, they're all possibilities that can happen to you. A lot of people wait because they feel overwhelmed or they're just unsure where to start. But the sooner you do understand what your problem is and what your options are, the easier it's often to stabilize the situation and find a solution that's the best solution for you. So if you owe the IRS, you have unfiled returns, and you're not sure what to do next, I've included a link for a confidential consultation, both in the pinned comment below, as well as in the description. So reach out and we'll talk more. And if you found this video helpful, subscribe because I post weekly videos explaining how the IRS collections work, how tax problems get resolved, and helping you to find successful solutions to your IRS problems.